Good morning on this beautiful spring day. Whether the Unitarian Church of Evanston is your spiritual home, or are you seeking comfort and connection in uncertain times, we are grateful you are with us. We are an inclusive and welcoming community seeking truth in love and striving to nurture the human spirit for a world made whole. We are guided by our principles and values, which remind us in every moment and through every challenge that each of us matters and that we are all connected through the vast and beautiful web of existence. Together, let us remember our oneness, our kinship with one another, and may we hold one another in heart and mind with tenderness and careful attention. There are many links in the comments section below, including credits for the readings, to virtual religious education, for donations, and to be added to our email newsletter list. A few announcements. The All Church Zoom meeting will be on Wednesday at 5:30, and we'll send a reminder email in the early afternoon on Wednesday with a link. We'll hold virtual coffee and conversation after this service until about 1 p.m. on Zoom. You can find the link in the comments below or from the newsletter. The journey toward membership is this week on Tuesday, and Wednesday evening on Zoom. If you would like to participate, please email Adam, or check the newsletter to register. The 8th Principal Town Hall is next Sunday after coffee and conversation at 1:15 p.m. And here is Reverend Eileen for a pledge drive update.
Good morning, everyone. We are so close to meeting our pledge drive goal, and we're hoping that you can help us get there. As of today, we've received 249 pledges, totaling $546,083 out of our goal of $553,000. So we're just less than $7,000 away from our goal. Thank you so much for the generosity that everyone has shown and everyone who have made pledges so far. And to help us get over the finish line, if you haven't pledged yet, please do so today. You can find the online pledge form link below or in the newsletter and on our website. There's only a few days left before the 2021 and 22 budget needs to be finalized. Our budget is full of exciting ways that we can more fully live into our mission of nurturing the human spirit for a world made whole. Thank you for making that happen. And now I invite you to get your chalices ready, set a place for yourself and your family as we join in beloved community. The opening reading this morning is Still I Rise by Maya Angelou and read by Annette Wallace.
You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room? Just like moons and like suns with a certainty of tides, just like hope springing high, still I'll rise. Did you want to see me broken, bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries? Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard 'cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard? You may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes, you may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I'll rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I'm a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling. I bear in the tide, leaving behind nights of terror and fear. I rise into a daybreak that's wondrously clear. I rise, bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise.
My blood doth rise in the roots of yon oak, a sceptre drawn in my veins, boundless my soul like the open sky, where the stars forever have lain. Where the stars forever have lain. My hands hold the weavings of time without end. My side as deep as the sea, beating my heart sounds the measures of old that of love's eternity. That of love's eternity. My foot carries days of the old into new, our dreaming shows us the way. Unless our face settles deep in the earth, rising green to bring a new day. Rising green, rising green, rising green to bring a new day.
We light this chalice in northern Illinois on the traditional homelands of the Council of the Three Fires, the Odawa, Ojibwe, and Potawatomi nations. Many other tribes, such as the Miami, Menominee, Ho-Chunk, Sac, and Fox, also call this area home. We name these in honor and respect. Please join in saying these words by Dillman Baker Sorrells. For holy days on which we recall the old stories, we light the flame. For Passover, which reminds us of the courage and strength of those seeking freedom in the past, we light the flame. For Easter, which reminds us that love is our greatest challenge, we light the flame. For gathering today in this sacred virtual space, we light the flame. For the opportunity to be together as a community, to remember the past, to plan for our future, to be alive in our present. Please join in saying the words of our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Morning has broken awoken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the word.
Sweet the rains do fall, sunlight from heaven, like the first dew fall on the first grass. Praise for the sweetness of the wet garden, sprung in completeness where God's feet pass. Mine is the sunlight, mine is the morning, born of the one light, Eden saw play. Praise with elation, praise every morning, God's recreation of the new day. Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the word.
I clicked it once. Today's Time for All Ages is The Tree That Survived the Winter by Mary Fahey. The tree awakened earlier than usual one morning and stretched her arms toward the horizon as if to invite the early rays of dawn into her world. She shivered with delight, wiggling her roots in the muddy earth, which had only recently yielded its frozen hardness. She sensed something was different. Her roots seemed to be extending further and more firmly into the soil. Her arms seemed to embrace more of the world, not with the timid gestures of a sapling afraid of tailing with the wind, but with the freedom of knowing that the wind could not topple her. "I have survived the winter," she marveled aloud. And the dawn, who had a talent for appreciating new miracles no matter how often they occurred, whispered, "How wonderful!" She swirled around the tree in a ritual of blessing, enveloping her gently, making her feel all shivery with light. "How very different this feels," mused the tree. Just a few short weeks ago, the melting earth beneath her roots had sent shudders of panic through every single branch. She had cried out in alarm then, sensing that she might sink into the earth and lose herself. Often during the cold winter, she had trembled with anxiety, but even then, she felt something inside of her that was fluid and alive. But now, she was filled with the realization that her inner life was in harmony with the world outside. She relaxed the tight fibers of her being, which she had unwittingly held rigid during the cold gray months. "I have survived the winter," she exulted. The birds echoed, "You've survived, you survived," hopping eagerly from branch to branch, bouncing on the tender extensions of herself that the tree had not even noticed. White buds were beginning to show through the tips of her branches. "I have survived the winter," the tree sighed, "and I have grown." Days passed, and the energy within her fairly exploded, spilling out into dusters of lovely blossoms. She watched each day as they grew larger and more beautiful. The spring rains showered her with congratulations and encouragement. Look at you. You are growing, growing, growing. Yes, the tree acknowledged. I have survived the winter, and I am growing. She quivered with delight as she admired her new appearance, letting a few raindrops fall on the violets and enjoyed the shelter of her trunk. It is good to be alive, she told them. Indeed, said the sun, appearing suddenly from behind a rain cloud. You have survived the winter. You are very much loved. The tree could feel the warmth of the smiling sun penetrate deep into her branches, even through the bark of her trunk. But then she stopped, for the memory of the hard winter sent through her a stab of anger and pain that she thought the spring had healed. Where were you when I needed you? She cried to the sun. I needed you so badly, and you weren't here. You've been gone so long, and I was so cold and lonely and scared. Even when I could see you in the distance, I couldn't feel your warmth or seem to reach you with my voice. Didn't you see me shivering? I became so brittle I was afraid of breaking, and my roots became paralyzed in the earth. She could no longer go on except to cry out, and I missed you terribly. The sun's glow only intensified, and the message was repeated. You have survived the winter, and you are very much loved. The chills and ice and bitter cold have toughened your timber to just the right degree, for you needed to be strong to carry the fruit that will appear on your branches. If I had stayed close all winter, you would not have grown this strong. But now just look at you. A blush of pink coursed through her petals. The tree stood speechless. You have survived the winter. You are and were and always will be very much loved, said the sun. For that small place deep within you that remained unfrozen and open to mystery, that is where I have made my dwelling. And long, long before you felt my warmth surrounding you, you were being freed and formed from within in ways so deep and profound that you could not possibly know what was happening. I had hope, she whispered, noticing that the words seemed to come from that inner space deep within. Yes, you had hope, sparkled the sun. You trusted in life, and that is what enabled you to grow. For if you had no hope and trust in the center of your being, you could not have blossomed into you. The end.
These are the joys and sorrows that have been submitted through the Google form found on our homepage of our website. And if you are unable to find that, please send me an email or one to Reverend Susan Francis if you have a joy or sorrow that you would like read in the service. I share gratitude for a generous gift from the family of Jan and French Eason, who were very dedicated and well-loved members of the Unitarian Church of Evanston before they moved to Indianapolis and joined the Heartland UU Church there several decades ago. Jan died in October of 2019 and French died in 2014. It is very moving that they left a gift to our congregation all these years later. We send our gratitude and comfort to their children, Laura and Doug, and their families. Want to wish a happy birthday to Cindy Sammons, who is our our chalice lighter today with her family. Happy birthday, Cindy. From Deborah Clements and Adris Simmons, prayers for their family, Deborah, Adris, and their standard poodle Reddington, as they make the relocation to Southern California. This community will be deeply missed by them, and we will miss you, Deborah and Adris. We wish you all the best and hope that you will stay in touch with us. Mary Beth Smith also will be moving away to Maryland to be near her son, Stan. Mary Beth and Kinney, who died last month, both of them will be missed as members of UCE and lifelong Unitarians. From Kathy Underwood, a sorrow and a joy, holding memories of my dad who died 8 years ago today, and my mom was sent to the ER last night for low hemoglobin, but is back at the rehabilitation facility to work on getting her strength back. Thank you for the cards, healing, energy, and prayers. And those thoughts and our love are with you still, Kathy. And finally, Sandy McNabb and Betsy Godwin are asking for your thoughts, prayers, and intentions or candle lighting, as Betsy is having open heart surgery tomorrow, April 5th, to repair or replace her mitral valve. We are so fortunate that it is not emergency surgery and we have been able to prepare for it. We love the thought of this beloved community creating a bubble of care around us as Betsy goes through this common but nerve-wracking procedure. Thank you. Our care and love are with you. And with all of you that are holding joys and sorrows that are perhaps too tender to name right now, we know that there are many that are on your hearts and on your minds. And so we take a moment of quiet now to read to ourselves the joys and sorrows that are added to the chat, and to know that there are others that are still unsaid. We hold these in care and tenderness. And I invite you to say the names out loud of those who are on your heart and on your mind, those who have died, those who are sick, those who have experienced loss. Let their names gather on the winds and be held in the love and care of this community that knows no walls. In beloved community, we expand our celebrations and lessen the burden of our grief. I invite you to join me in the spirit of prayer and meditation, this prayer in the silence, written by Reverend Sarah Eileen Lawal. Spirit of life and love, in the silence, in the stillness, we hear the call of our own heart, its tender dreams, its sorrows and its triumphs. In the silence, in the stillness, we hear whispers of days gone by, of dreams still becoming, the promise of the future. We celebrate together our individual journeys and dreams and our collective ones, knowing the journey is so much richer with others to share in it. In the name of all that is holy, we pray. Amen.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea. Move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
UCE remains a vital part of the world and our community. And because we continue to need one another in the blessings of community, we take this time to invite you to give to our shared plate. Here to talk about our shared plate recipient is Alice Swan.
Good morning. I'm Alice Swan. I'm a member of UCE and also the office manager at Restore Justice. Restore Justice is an organization that advocates for fairness, humanity, and compassion throughout the Illinois criminal legal system, with a primary focus on those affected by extreme sentences imposed on our youth. We create and support policies that allow those who are rehabilitated to go home and that ensure those incarcerated, their families, and victim families have opportunities for healing and justice. We engage currently and formerly incarcerated individuals and their families, victims and their families, communities, and concerned Illinoisans in advocacy and service within the criminal legal system. And to tell you a little bit more about what we do, I'd like to introduce James Swansea, who is part of our Future Leaders Apprentice program right now.
Hello, my name is James Swansea, and I'm an impacted individual. I was once a juvenile lifer, and I ultimately got resentenced to 60 years, and I ended up serving 28 of those years. I was recently released December 9th, and I came home, and I ultimately started working with RJI. I'm an apprentice in RJI's Future Leadership Apprentice Program, and I basically got introduced to RJI because they ultimately came down to Menard, and they, Julie Anderson, who is our outreach manager, they did family trips and things of that nature. So, ultimately, they played a role in helping me, get my lawyer and everything, which in turn, of course, helped me get resentenced. And I just want to take the time out, to say that, RJI is basically the only organization that, that helps the youth and young adults, who have received or actually have, extreme sentences. And, I think that plays a major part, because, there are a lot of, offenders and inmates in Illinois that actually have, extreme sentences. And, so I think that's very important, that you have somebody fighting for these issues.
Thank you, James and Alice. You can text to give, send in a check, or give from our website. If you send in a check, please indicate in the memo line if your check is for the shared offering, pledge, capital campaign, or some other giving. Please give as generously as you are able, and may what you give bring you joy.
Good morning. This is Cindy Sammons. Turtle is an abridged reading from Gail Boss, co-founder of the Academy of Hope. This piece is from a titled Elegant Essentials, 24 Animal Icons for Advent. The day is bright and warm for winter, but the logs in the marsh pond are bare. Spring to summer into early fall, they served on sunny days as spa to a dozen or so painted turtles. Basking, splay-legged, they would stretch their leathery necks out to full length, avid for every luscious atom of sunlight and sun warmth. Out of sight, they have not escaped the harsh cold that is coming. The water is maybe waist deep in this pond, but a murky soup clogged with roots and plants. One day in the fall, as the water and air cooled at some precise temperature, an ancient bell sounded in the turtle brain. The signal. Take a deep breath. Each creature slipped off her log and swam for the warm muck bottom. Stroking her way through the woven wall of plant stems, she found her bottom place. She closed her eyes and dug into the mud. She buried herself. And then, Pulled into her shell, encased in darkness, she settled into a deep stillness. Her heart slowed and slowed, almost stopping. Her body temperature dropped and stopped just short of freezing. Now, beneath a layer of mud, beneath the weight of the frigid water and its skin of ice and skim of snow, everything in her has gone so still that she doesn't need to breathe. And anyway, the iced-over pond will soon be empty of oxygen. Sunk in its bottom mud for 6 months, she will not draw air into her lungs. She slows herself beyond breath, in a place where breath is not possible, and waits as the ice locks in the march and the howling squalls batter its reeds and brush. Beneath it all, she waits. It is her one work, and it's not easy. Oxygen depletion stresses every particle out of her bones, then out of her shell. Her body pulls calcium, slowly dissolving her structure, her shape, her strength. But to move, to escape, requiring breath, in a place where there is no oxygen, though she is dissolving, every stressed particle of her stays focused on the silver bead of utter quietude. It is this radical simplicity that will save her. And deep within it, at the heart of her stillness, something she has no need to name, but something we might call trust, that one day the world will, yes, warm again, and with it, her life.
Like the sun. torches of peace. The east, the west, the north and south. Let the long quarrel cease. Sing of the songs of great joy that the angels begun. Sing of the glory to God and goodwill to men. Joining in chorus, the heavens bend toward us. The dark, dark night is ending, and dawn has begun. All rise, all of the ages arise, like the sun, and all speechless to music, and all our hearts beat as one. Oh, the dark night is ending, and dawn has begun.
Thank you. I want to thank all of our musicians and contributors and readers today that have made this service so powerful and meaningful and beautiful. I really, truly appreciate it. Easter is complicated for Unitarian Universalists. The story of Jesus rising from the dead is hard for us to reckon with theologically and metaphorically, given our cherished reason and skepticism. And it's also hard to know how to hold a message of hope in this moment, along with our commitment to justice and an honest and responsible search for truth. It's much safer on Easter Sunday for a Unitarian Universalist minister to stick with metaphors of spring, of baby animals and budding flowers, than to try to pull optimism out of crucifixion. No matter your beliefs about the life and story of Jesus, his crucifixion was a brutal and public murder. Imagine the horror for those who loved him, of witnessing the dehumanizing and painful killing of your teacher, your prophet, before onlookers. Listening to the testimony this week of those who witnessed and recorded the murder of George Floyd, also brutal and public, is excruciating. Those who were there watching for those 9 horrific minutes, unable to stop the violent act of racism and hate as his breath and life were taken from him, will carry that trauma always. They will never be the same. I hold deep sorrow, as well as awe, for the courage that it must have taken to testify to such an atrocity. No matter what happens to Derek Chauvin, it will not bring back the breath of life to George Floyd or make his heinous murder excusable. The murder of Jesus and those cast as criminals beside him will never be redeemable. The dehumanization and violence experienced by Asian Americans cannot be erased by calling it out. Easter morning stories of resurrection do not absolve the evil of hateful violence and entrenched injustice. This Easter morning, I am wondering how we can, as people and as a community, step out of the brutal reality of the tomb into the harsh light of truth. Can we be restored and transformed and healed by naming the truth? Can we talk about resilience and possibility and breathing after holding our breath for so long, knowing that George Floyd and so many others won't take another breath? How do we hold the realities of oppression and bitter loss while reserving some of our capacity for joy and wonder and hope? In the march toward Easter, I have been struck by the notion that this entire year has been one long Lenten season, an extended entombment of the soul. Emerging for those of us who have survived may bring mixed feelings, excitement, trepidation, guilt. So many have not survived, even though they were deeply loved. Amidst the pandemic disproportionately affecting Black and Brown people and the reality of white supremacy and hateful violence, how do we pull hope out of the despair pressing down so heavily? As our reading this morning evokes, like that turtle, I have felt as though I have been under a foot of ice this winter, frozen and numb, entombed. As I start to emerge, I feel pale, depleted, and so hungry for light, yet fearful of the burning brightness. As vaccinations rise and the warmer weather draws us out, it would be so easy to rush headlong and with delirium, throwing caution to the wind toward recapturing a sense of normalcy, trying to forget our grief. But the rise in cases along with vaccinations causes us to go slow, cautions us to go slow, to pay attention to the resources that we have drawn upon and to make note of the internal stockpiles that have been depleted in our waiting for the sun to return. Easter offers the unearned grace of spring and calls us to hope for transformation, even in our sorrow, even as we recognize all that has been broken and lost. Joyce Rupp, author and self-described spiritual midwife, writes, Easter is about love that keeps vigil and waits and believes in life, no matter how dark and empty and cold the inner space feels. Easter is about hope that is willing to sit in the tomb while it trusts in transformation. Easter is about faithful companions who keep watch with us and cheer us on as we wait for our inner resurrection. As a spiritual community striving to make the world more just and whole, we must be those faithful companions to one another, sitting with one another in the tomb as each one emerges in their own time, intending to hope for resilience and collective liberation. As Unitarian Universalists, we look to spring for signs of renewal that the earth faithfully offers without question: the daffodils, the robin's eggs, the lengthening days. But as we reach for hope, let us carry the tomb with us, remembering the many who have not made it out, and hold hope lightly. Hope can be a dangerous thing. It can lead us to rush out of the darkness into the all-consuming light of the sun, unable to recognize the definition of shadow. But we do need hope. to sustain ourselves as we struggle to find our way out of the darkness. Hope is a discipline, not an emotion or sense of optimism. Activist and abolitionist Miriam Kaba teaches us. Wonder can accompany hope as a source of healing and repair. Wonder affords us an opportunity to understand others, to see possibilities, to listen to another person's story. Wonder provides a crack in the veneer of certainty, enables growth and learning with humility, caution, and care. I've been practicing wonder as one of the postures of revolutionary love. I know I mention Valerie Kaur in just about every sermon and conversation these days, but I find her to be an endless source of wisdom. I'm not going to apologize, but I do want to assure you that I read other things. Wonder is the first approach in Kaur's book, See No Stranger. Recognizing every person as a part of ourselves that we do not yet know is an approach to others with wonder. When I feel defensive, angry, or hurt by a person's reaction or words, I am practicing wondering about them. I wonder what is happening for them. I wonder what makes them feel this way. I wonder what has caused them pain. Through this posture, I have experienced some remarkable relational transformations and deep connections. I have come to understand others as a part of me I do not yet know. Now, it doesn't come easy. When someone hurts us and we are angry, it is not easy to wonder about them in that moment. We must breathe and allow ourselves to feel and express our anger safely without hurting ourselves or anyone else before we can allow wonder to enter. But when we are ready and it feels safe enough, perhaps we can turn to wonder. I wonder why I feel so angry. I wonder what story this person carries. I wonder what hard lessons they have learned. If we can approach another person with our sense of wonder, imagining that you are a part of me I do not yet know, repair and transformation is truly possible. As we engage in the process of coming back together as a community, as we move more deeply and bravely into the work of anti-racism and anti-oppression, we are invited to wonder about one another. As we wonder, let us continue to name and bear witness to our truth. Let us center the voices of those who are marginalized, and may those of us who are white practice listening with humility. May we, as our covenant of engagement suggests, apologize and forgive ourselves, accept an apology and forgive others. Perhaps we can start every meeting, every gathering by establishing the space and the expectation that we will take responsibility for our words and actions and acknowledge that we don't always know how our words are going to impact others. Each of us in building the beloved community is responsible for naming when we are hurt or uncomfortable. Each of us is responsible for speaking up for one another when we witness harm, and each of us is responsible for apologizing when we cause harm. Each of us can be companions to one another as we slowly and carefully come out of whatever tomb we are in, be it uncertainty, perfectionism, despair, loneliness, marginalization and oppression, fear, anger, defensiveness. Only you know the reality of your tomb. Only you know the resources you have drawn on in order to survive it. But survive you have, and you will, and you are loved. You are needed in this world. You are needed in the work of repairing the world with your love, with your resilience, and with your wonder. Though we carry the trauma and the truth of the tomb with us, we have inner resources to draw upon and share with one another. May we find ways of holding hope along with brave and accountable truth-telling. I conclude this Easter message with more music played by Gregory Schifrin in recognition of Holocaust Remembrance Day. Gregory will introduce this piece, telling the story of the composer, which dares us to hold out hope for transformation and life beyond the tomb. May we cultivate faith in the possibility of life over death, of love over hate, of goodness over evil, of renewal over destruction. May we learn to hold the reality of injustice with the liberating hope of transformation. May we companion one another on the journey from the tomb, discovering what we need to survive and thrive.
In order to commemorate the Holocaust Remembrance Day that falls this year on Thursday, April 8th, I would like to present to you a piece by French Jewish composer, Holocaust survivor Norbert Glansberg. Norbert Glansberg was born in 1910 in Rohaty in Poland. The family moved to Germany in 1911. At 20 years old, he started to work as an accompanist for the opera theater. When the Nazi regime came into power in Germany, in 1933, Glansberg went into exile in Paris. He performed and composed songs in music halls in Paris in the years before the war. In 1939, he relocated to France's Free Zone in the south of the country, which had not yet been occupied by Germany. There he met the impresario who hired him to tour with the famous French singer Edith Piaf as her pianist. Along with being her pianist, he began writing some of her songs. By 1942, the Vichy government in unoccupied France also began excluding Jews from most professions, which led to Glansberg's name now being kept off concert programs. In 1943, when the Free Zone was also invaded, he was arrested as a Jew and placed in jail. His friends and actress Marie Bell and singer Tina Rossi, with Edith Piaf's financial help, organized his successful escape just before he was to be deported to a concentration camp. Piaf asked another friend, Countess Lily Pastre, to hide him at her chateau outside of Marseille. It was later told that during the war, the Countess saved the lives of more than 40 Jewish musicians, artists, and writers. After composing multiple film scores and songs, in 1983, Glansberg went back to classical music and composed a series of art songs from a collection of poems written during the war by concentration camp inmates. In 1985, he wrote a concerto for two pianos, the Yiddish Suite, inspired by the novels of Isaac Bashevis Singer. Today you will hear the opening movement from Yiddish Suite called In Shtetl. Here is a description of the movement by the composer himself. Market day in a little village. People who are happy to meet have lively conversations and gesticulate while speaking. Sometimes they quarrel noisily. It gives the impression of hearing one of Marc Chagall's paintings.
As we extinguish the chalice, please join in saying these words. Though the flame is extinguished, we carry with us the warmth of community, the light of truth, and the fire of commitment until we are together again.
Though the earth awakes again, hallelujah, from the winter's bond and pain, hallelujah, bring relief and flower and spring, hallelujah, to adorn this happy day, hallelujah. Once again the word comes true, hallelujah. All the earth shall be made new, hallelujah. Now the dark old days are o'er, hallelujah. Spring and gladness are before, hallelujah. Change then mourning into praise, hallelujah. And for dirges anthems raise, hallelujah. Our spirits soar and sing, hallelujah. Our hearts leap with the spring, hallelujah.
For all those who celebrate the resurrection of Jesus, may this day be another affirmation of divine love and promise. For all those who see the eternal story of new spring and life beginning anew, may you breathe deeply of a season of promise and hope. For all who are experiencing despair or hopelessness this Easter, may you find in the darkness or depression a doorway to light and warmth that offers you freedom. For all of us, together we can do what no one isolated person can do. Rolling the heavy stone aside reminds us we are far more powerful than we ever could be on our own. Our offering of strong hands to help our prayers made real. Let us begin again to love.